pretty much how all my childhood toys look like.
Really?
Before I threw them away.
Really?
Yeah.
Poor Sal, babe. I can't believe he died. Jazz.
To this day, the Jeep Wrangler is my favourite Alternators / Binaltech mould. Revisiting it is actually kinda nostalgic. Alternators Swindle was only my second review. Here I'm covering the other two characters to use it. The mould was first released in both toy lines as Hound. In a range mostly made up of cars, it's cool that Generation 1's Scout is still a Jeep, albeit civilian this time, though the dark green gives it that same military vibe. As always, the detailing is on point, with the clear headlights, a proper interior with seats, a steering wheel and a dashboard, side steps, the spare tyre cover, and actual rubber tyres, the smallest of the three Jeep Wranglers. The bonnet and doors all open up, and despite that his arms are stored inside the former, they took the time to sculpt engine-like features. Instead of the usual rack and pinion steering gimmicks seen on the cars, for this mould we get spring suspension. As with all Alternators and Binaltechs, the vehicle is 1:24 scale, and since I have the Binaltech release of Hound, he is a mix of die-cast and plastic, adding further to the model-like aesthetics. Perhaps the main reason as to why the Jeep Wrangler is my favourite mould in both lines is the transformation. It's not that the engineering excels, at least by today's standards, and Rumble's is arguably simpler. It's more that it's involved, but easy to perform. There aren't many collision issues, and even when going back into alt mode, everything pegs in place solidly. The roll cage, chassis, and even the side steps have all these pegs, holes, and/or slots that give the Jeep near rock-hard stability. It's just pleasant to transform, and given what I've heard about Masterpiece Hound, this may be the more approachable figure for a lot of you. While lacking certain design traits, like the shoulder-mounted missile launcher, the robot is still quite clearly G1 Hound, from the head sculpt to the front of the Jeep forming his chest, and again, the deco for the most part, even smaller painted details like the yellow stripes on his forearms. Much like the Chug Rangers to come, Alternators and Binaltech were more about reimagining characters than just straight up copying their G1 toy and cartoon designs, and Hound, with his newfound door wings and spare tyre on the left leg, amongst other features, is no exception. Speaking of the spare tyre, that's where the gun is stored. To this day it is one of the most pathetic handheld weapons in these lines, second only to Skids's. As stated in my review of Prowl, the Alternators and Binaltechs haven't aged the best in terms of articulation, lacking joints such as arm and thigh swivels that are more commonplace today. For this mould, the head, shoulders and hips are all unrestricted ball joints. The elbows, wrists and fingers are hinged, while the knees and ankles are double hinged. The index figure moves separately from the other three, which are unified. The mid-torso swivel is most effective with the back kibble folded up. The wrists also swivel, and lastly you have ratcheted ankle tilts. The die cast in the upper body makes the Binaltech version of this mould pretty top heavy, though with his large footprint it at least fares better than, say, the Binaltech release of the Scion XB. In Alternators and Binaltech, Hound was supposed to be retooled into Trailbreaker, with bulkier tyres,
metallized silver grille at the front.
That's a ball bar, dumbass. And a new head based on his 3H Comics design. However, since they couldn't secure the trademark for the name Trailbreaker, the figure became Swindle. It's not the first time a remold intended for one character was turned into another, what with the whole Sunstreaker Dead End debacle. But whereas Sunstreaker got his toys in the end, Alternator's Swindle was redecoed into Rollbar. It's not a namesake either. This is the Generation 1 Throttlebot. And therein lies the problem people have with this redeco. Despite being an Autobot, a Jeep, and actually sporting a Rollbar this time, so the name ironically fits better than before, it still doesn't feel like G1 Rollbar. And yes, this somewhat contradicts my earlier statement about reimagining, But with other bots like Swerve, Rumble, and even Grimlock, you know, a Dinobot, at least their decos, design traits, and or head sculpts helped sell them as those characters to some extent. I mean, I can understand not making a second green Jeep, even a different green, in which case, I'd have picked an actual orange bot like Sandstorm. Or, you know, recolor and release it as Trailbreaker like it was meant to be, with the Autobot prefix or some name alteration. Failing that, as some have pointed out, there was a surprisingly simple fix. Make this a Decepticon. No, I'm not referring to the Repro label set that turns this into the Predacon Tantrum. I mean this could have worked as the 2001 Robots in Disguise Rollbar, who not only had orange on him, but whose original toy was also a Swindle redeco. Would that be more tenuous than what we got? However, as with Combiner Wars Huffer and Warpath, just because it's not the best representation or homage doesn't make it a bad figure. It's still the same solid mold, and I actually like Rollbar's color scheme. The orange and black combo is striking, and the arms and waist are done in a nice metallic pale bronze, so in Jeep mode, it really does feel like he has a huge engine block. Rollbar also sports a Colorado license plate. Shame they merely printed the character's name in letters, instead of replacing the O in one of the L's with a 0 and 1 or something. In the end, I give both Binaltech Hound and Alternators Rollbar a gold, which shouldn't be surprising considering my re-ranking of Swindle earlier this year. The Jeep Wrangler is, for me, the only Alternator/Binaltech to balance good looks with a complex yet intuitive transformation and articulation that, while dated in the arms, is still present in the rest of the base figure. Hound has my favourite deco of the three, but the other two don't trail far behind. Whether it's in die-cast or plastic crack, you should have at least one version of this mold in your collection.